Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I got an idea here. I was just sitting listening to Trevor Lane talking about D'Angelo Russell's game, and I remembered that I had made a mistake about D'Angelo Russell's stats. I thought he had missed 8 threes, and he didn't. He was 1 for 9, but I think he only attempted like 4 threes, something like that. But, he was a -2, which isn't great at all, but he had a block, a steal, and 8 assists. And I just wanted to assess that properly. You know what I mean? Because I had his stats completely wrong. I think that that's a bad shooting night. And in 24 minutes, I think the coach did a good job of removing a cold shooting player from the floor. But when you consider the fullness of what he was doing for our continuity, you consider how he contributed to our defense, and the fact that he didn't contribute to the turnovers, which was a very big problem, you may actually say that we overreacted to his missed shots, especially when you consider how effective of a shooter he is. Bad shooting night, yes. Foot hurt, fine, which is why this is justifiable completely. But I don't think he had as bad a game as we're saying he did, as I said he did. Because at the end of the day, all he really did was miss shots. And if you look at the shots that he attempted, they were probably twos, more so than threes missed, as to which that really caters to less of a problem for me, considering the fact that I think we've been overshooting threes as of late. So if he's missing layups and jumpers and all of that, that's mid-range jumpers and stuff. I have to go back and look at the shot selection. I don't know. But at the end of the day, the biggest problems the Lakers had down there, to me, he didn't necessarily contribute to be honest with you. It was just missed shots. And so I've been on record saying I want coach to get the cold hand off the floor, and it's very important we do so. And given the fact that we did win the game, all is fair. But I'm not sure that some of the problems that we had taking care of the basketball would not have been remedied by having him have the ball in his hands more often. One of the turnovers that we had was, in fact, trying to force the ball inbound to him. But I don't know if that turnover necessarily gets credited to him or if it gets credited to the inbounder. But I do remember that play taking place. And so I consider that, and with 24 minutes and 1 turnover, 8 effective assists, which means you probably had other passes that just didn't turn into shots. I think he actually, low-key, just had an off night. As opposed to it being a horrible evening. Nah, not really. Not really. Now, when you consider the fullness of what he gave us versus what it is we had problems with, nah, not at all. we needed to stop turning the ball over like crazy, because that's what we kept doing. And so, that's just something I wanted to say, because I know I was wrong about D'Angelo Russell's numbers. But if you guys follow me, y'all know I give you roundabout numbers. I don't necessarily have the stats in my grasp when I speak to you guys, nor do I have the greatest memory in the world. But want to get those things right, and also want to assess these players properly. And when we get on people about having a bad night and things like that, I want to make sure that I know that they had the kind of night I thought they had, because there was a lot to look at there. Also, there's another thing that I wanted to mention that I let them slide on yesterday. The Timberwolves had 2 players with 5 fouls as the game ended. We did not hunt out Karl-Anthony Towns and Kyle Anderson, 2 of the most destructive players against us yesterday. With them being that close to being out of the game, we need to put more of an emphasis on hunting those players out when they start having foul trouble. This isn't a new topic. We've talked about this at least 7 or 8 times throughout the season, so nobody should be surprised to hear me say this. I'm just disappointed that we didn't do it. I did see that Karl-Anthony Towns tried to force that 4th foul, and I think it was his 5th foul that he picked up on Karl-Anthony Towns. I think he understood that mentality, tried to get him in, get him out of there, but we didn't continue that process. And I think when you consider how many steps it takes to try to shut some of these players down, how much damage, as I said, Carl and Anderson was doing to us yesterday, you definitely need to see the understanding that they need to be removed from the floor if they're close to being fouled out. It's that simple. We can't do that in the playoffs. It can get us beat. Leaving players on the floor, no. Dude's got 5 fouls. We got to make sure that if his coach wants to keep him out there, that he's in a physical matchup. Basically, that he's in some type of situation that makes it look as if the call should be made there. Because getting those guys off the floor is defense. Getting them off the floor by way of foul trouble is the best defense there is. So, a guy like Karl Towns, physical dude, you know what I mean? In a matchup like yesterday, he was only big on the floor. There should have been no reason he could have finished the game running around. He should have been on the sideline in that game. So, Kyle Anderson, same thing. All over the boards, pushing people around and stuff. It should have been nothing for him to draw that 6th foul. So, yeah, I want to see that in the playoffs, man. We got to respect fouls just in general. When we're in foul trouble, don't be crazy about playing guys with 3 fouls in quarter number 2 and stuff like that. It's a bad idea, I think, in the playoffs. And just as I've already said on the other side, same thing, respecting fouls. So that is that thought there. Happy to be in the playoffs, Congratulations, Purple and Gold. We're in. It's been a couple years now, and, we believe our team is very capable of defeating everybody, basically. So we're at this point where we just want to get the rest necessary. Not too eager to start these games right away. Guys need to heal up. Guys need to recalibrate. And I think the team needs to have time to strategize, which is something that I am very much concerned about. But I'm curious to see how it all unfolds as we watch whatever Darvin Ham has in store for this team in this matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies. So the series starts there. It's going to be an early Sunday, 12 o'clock after 12:30 matchup. You know how I love those. So that's going to be game 1 for us. And, I'm sure they're going to be fired up. Obviously, Memphis and the whole culture there is to, gloat and dance and, do all kinds of other stuff that ain't got nothing to do with winning. So we're going to have to silence them, basically, and get an early start to that series with a win. I don't want us to start this series slow. This is a young team who obviously needs to be respected. Obviously has been at the top of the Western Conference pretty much all season long, up there with Denver and Sacramento. So we know what they can do. We respect how good they are, but we understand that we've constructed a team in the second half of the season that we feel is better than them right now with the players that they have missing. It's just better, on paper. So we respect Ja, we respect Jaren, but healthy AD, healthy Bron, and all of these young players that we have on top of that, and you couple that with the acquisition of Double T, which is another 6 fouls and a bunch of rebounds that we should potentially be able to get with him as a piece, which I think is going to be very important against some of these players if coach chooses to use him in Bamba. And I think it's reasonable to think that coach would see the fruit in playing more players in this series, but you never know. But given the fact that we have so many bodies to throw at Jaren, to throw at Tillman, to throw at Lofton, who I expect to be the main physical players out there, hopefully we'll see a good combination of these players throughout the course of this series as it continues to progress. But, with understanding of who they are, I think the best path for the Lakers is to try to catch an early couple of wins, try to win both of these games on the road if at all possible. You don't expect to, but the best path for us is to try to limit our games, period. Limit our play, limit our overtime possibilities. We want to play the minimal amount of basketball possible for ourselves in these playoffs is essentially what I'm saying. Can we control that destiny? I don't have an answer for that, but we should be aiming to play as few games as possible. Get rid of teams early. If you have a lead, keep it. That kind of thing. Hit your free throws. We did a great job against the Timberwolves, hitting a lot of free throws. This is one of the best free throw nights we've had for all the ugliness of this game. I believe we shot about 92% on above 20 attempts. That is the best free throw night we've had in months. In one of the most pressured moments we've had, if not the most pressured moment we had. So that speaks very, very positively to what we're capable of in these playoffs. Because that was equivalent to basically a game 6. And we hit 90-something% from the free throw line, if I'm not mistaken. So, we've been hovering around 70 pretty much every night or under, sometimes 50% one night. So, congratulations, LA. That was a big deal. These are things we're talking about. We just want to make sure that we continue to carry over this confidence that we picked up from these little positive things. It ain't been a lot, but the few positive things that we did in this game. But 3-point shot discipline, defensive principles, and I was listening to the Laker Nation guys talk about turning it on and off as it pertains to our defense. We have been playing some terrible defense against the last few teams we played against. Utah twice, the Clippers. Our defense was bad, very bad against the Clippers. And so when I think about how we played good defense yesterday, what looked like good defense yesterday, even though I could argue we had stretches at a time where we did not, and they were able to run up the score pretty well, particularly the end of the first quarter. But all in all, we've been playing some really good defense. We have extremely capable defensive players. It's just a situation where you want to see that carry over into the playoffs. You definitely want to see that carry over into this Memphis series. So, my mindset is this. As long as we stay cognizant of the details of what it is we're supposed to focus on, and continue to have this confidence in regards to our defense, play the defensive players that are capable of playing, let them overpower the matchups necessary instead of trying to match Ja bucket for bucket, and respect that the perimeter defense is everything here. I don't want to get away from something that means a lot to beating this Memphis Grizzlies team. Desmond Bane is a young star. He is a 3-point shooter extraordinaire. He shoots the 3 ball as good as anybody in the league. So we need to understand this going into this series. He's got a lot of different intangibles to him, but the one thing about him that I understand is that he's a heavy guy who can get to the rim and kind of power through people. He made a fool of Troy Brown in the last matchup. Do not put Troy Brown on Desmond Bane. I'm just going to put that out there right now because I know we ain't going to have a lot of options in regards to that. Probably going to put Vando on either Ja or Jaren, possibly, although I think AD's going to have Jaren a lot of the time. Probably Winion as well. But look, Troy was a terrible matchup for him in that last matchup, and I haven't forgotten. He abused that man on several plays, driving at the rim. He just too heavy. So this is something that I haven't forgotten as we continue to try to figure out how to guard Bane. You cannot leave him alone, and you cannot put somebody light on him. You cannot do that. I'm just telling y'all right now. So I don't know if y'all considering Vando and maybe just putting somebody else on Ja, which seems crazy to me. Maybe maybe you want to experiment with Rui. I don't know. Maybe you want to put Bron on Bane and just let Bron have defensive responsibilities in certain situations throughout this series. But this Troy Brown on Bane ain't gonna work. Austin on Bane may not work if he's. See, the thing about Austin is he's an effective defensive player because he's able to draw fouls and improvise in various things. He can keep up with guys and he's getting stronger. But as it pertains to locking people down, I think Austin's getting to a point where he relies too much on the whistle. And we need to have him, dig deep and stay true throughout some of these defensive plays. You got to pick and choose when you want to go for the foul whistle, because what is ending up happening to him is they're looking for him to do this, and they're not giving him those calls. And I've been watching this over the course of the last couple of games, and we saw it most recently yesterday. He's not getting the same calls. He's getting the calls that you get when you're driving at the rim. He'll get his layup whistles. But the others on the defensive end, some of those, he's not getting away with it as much. And I think throughout the playoffs, he's going to have to respect those officials and play good defense throughout the course of some of these games so that they don't have that with, they don't have to do that. You know what I mean? I'm trying to express it in such a way to say, respect the whistle. Respect the fact that they pick and choose when you're going to do it. play good defense, because if they think you're a floppy fish, they're going to disrespect you by not giving you any calls. Essentially what I'm saying. I've been watching them do this to players that do that. You know what I mean? And the one thing I know is, growing up watching Derek Fisher, who often had this same type of relationship with the refs, is he would always give them long stretches where he wouldn't do anything that would otherwise make them whistle on him or whistle somebody else on his behalf. He would play defense all the way through, and then he would pick and choose when he needed to draw those fouls in the way that you do. So that's what I'm trying to say. If they think you're trying to disrespect them too much, they're gonna stop giving you those whistles. I think that's starting to happen to certain players. The officials just get tired of it, because all it is you making a fool of them in the end. To whatever degree they are trying to accomplish what it is they're trying to accomplish anyway, and then they got to deal with the players who are also trying to embellish. It just gets to a point where I think the players, in some cases, should give them a bone, so that when they do cry wolf, so to speak, they get the calls. It's the boy who cried wolf syndrome, if anybody's ever heard that story. I don't want to get into the whole thing, but basically, don't call on help unless you really need it. That's basically what it comes down to. So that's kind of how I look at it. We got to be smart. We got to be smart as a team. And not reacting to fouls that don't come our way. We've talked about this already, but I want to reiterate it. It's the same thing that we've said earlier in the season about just making sure that we don't allow the officials to get in our heads in regards to what it is that their mistakes are. If they don't call a call, we got to keep playing defense. Got to get back on D. Got to keep the latency of the play, whatever the case may be. If we're reacting to them, letting them throw us off our game, our opponent then takes over while we're distracted. It doesn't work. You can let it motivate you to play better, but you can't let it have you turning your attention to them instead of playing the game. And so that's one of the things that we've seen over the years. Teams make that mistake in the playoffs. They start making it about them and the refs, cost them a game, probably end up costing them a series. So it's the teams that can overcome that. It's the teams, like I said, that can respect the whistle in the playoffs that will ultimately probably find the most favor. At the end of the day, everybody's doing what they got to do to gain the favor of the call. And it's something that the refs see all day, every day. And they expect to see a lot of it in the playoffs. They showed us yesterday in the play-in tournament that the tone is set. They're not really going for it. Some of the stuff that they let happen in the regular season, if yesterday was any indication, they're probably going to be swallowing their whistles on a lot of that stuff. So that's what I'm saying. We're just going to have to play through these. We're going to have to play through the whistle and go for the layup. Don't go for the draw foul, especially near the end of these games. And sometimes guys want to flail their arms instead of actually going for the layup. This ain't the playoffs to do that. All that James Harden stuff, you're not going to get the call. So it's going to be the team that stays disciplined through that and tries to play as much disciplined basketball without that I think may see the most favor. It's just a hunch. I don't know nothing about nothing. But it's just something that I'm trying to gain a tone for in regards to these officials for the first two games of these here play-in tournament games. And playoff tone can change. You never know what they're going to be thinking, but I know they want to cut off some of the manipulation from the players. They want to cut down on some of the embellished calls and things of that nature. So that's just what I want to say. I'm watching them, and I know that Austin Reaves is on their radar. He just is. But you know what? He is somebody we can trust will get his calls driving at the rim a bit more than some of our superstars for that same reason. Some of our superstars have worn out their welcome in other areas, which is why I've learned this lesson. But Austin Reaves gets his calls driving at the rim. Hopefully that remains. It's not like he ain't taking the punishment. All of our guys always are, which is something that needs to be understood. It's just they're not giving us those calls. But I think Austin's more likely to get them, so is Dennis. So we got to let those guys do what they do. Let them drive at the rim. And I think also something that I want to say in shifting away from that is Anthony Davis is going to be in a lot of situations where he's going to be jumping up and down in the paint. And I've always said that I want players next to him that can help him with those things. But he's going to have to do He's gonna have to work on trying to have more control of his body, man. I don't know what to tell him. He just comes down entirely too awkward, and he ends up taking on unnecessary punishment because of it. Coming down awkward legs and knees and stuff, just taking all types of punishment, it seems to me. So that's something I just want to note. Yesterday, I just thought, with him jumping and doing all types of things in the paint, he really probably found himself with a little bit of a side soreness, I guess you can say, going forward. So hopefully these 4 days can get him some rest in regards to whatever may be bugging him besides the foot. So yeah, man, health is everything, man. And if anything, Laker fans should be concerned about, it's just the overall expectancy of the health of our players. We got 16 maximum games to play. How many games would it be? I have so many more than 16, but we want to win 16 games, I believe it is. Ultimately, my math is trash, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you win this championship if you're the Lakers, given the fact the timeline is built for that very thing. So, what'll get us there is good health, continued cycling of players on our bench to keep guys fresh. I think that's important. I don't care what everybody else is doing. Don't shorten your bench. Expand it. Give yourself the cushion for your health. That's what that is. That's cushion. And so, yeah, man, throughout the course of this series, I think we're going to see some stuff, man. They got a good coach over there. Like I said, they got some fantastic shooters. Dillon Brooks is a very good defensive player, particularly on the perimeter. But he's super hyper zealous, and he's feeling himself right now. He is really feeling himself right now. And I don't know that he's as good as a basketball player as he think he is. I keep saying that. He's good. He's capable. But his efficiency and stuff like that, I'm going to be seeing for him, because I watched him very closely last year in the playoffs. And if you watch me, I was assessing those Memphis Grizzlies as close as anybody. So I'm definitely curious to see how they're going to approach this series. This playoffs, they're a different team. One of the things that made them so very dangerous was Brandon Clark's offensive rebounding ability. I think that Kenny Lofton can be just as dangerous, if not more so. Kenny might even be a better player than him, which is what I want people to understand. The upside of Kenny Lofton is probably all-star. Probably. I'm going to tell you right now, as a big boy. And I checked to see if he was related to Kenny Lofton, a baseball player. He is, in fact, not. That's not Kenny Lofton, baseball player's son. No, Kenny Lofton Jr. is somebody else. It's totally different Kenny Lofton. But nevertheless, this dude is Kenny Lofton, and he is a problem. He's a big boy problem. And so as he steps in as the person that's about to be somebody that everyone knows because of the playoffs against the Lakers, where he's going to do whatever he does if he plays well, I just want to let everybody know that's exactly what this is. And Austin Reeves going to make a name for himself even more so in these playoffs as well, if we can get him healthy. Hopefully these 4 days will get him healthy. But this is going to be, David Roddy. It's going to be some names that emerge here that I think people are going to understand. Hopefully we can get some of our guys in this series too, so they can make a name for themselves as well. It's because that's what the playoffs is about. A lot of our players, we've grown to know them. Troy Brown, Lonnie Walker. We know our guys, Max Christie, whoever's on the team. We know the whole team. But a lot of these dudes are not known around the country in ways that they're about to be known for being playoff performers for the Lakers. So the pressure's high, but the opportunity is great. Guys like D'Angelo Russell have already been here. Dennis Schroeder, people know these guys already. But Troy Brown, Wenyen Gabriel, Rui Hachimura, this is their first go around with the playoffs, man. So I'm very excited about this for them. And maybe they have played some playoffs. Maybe they played a little bit with the Washington Wizards of Chicago, but it's nothing like going into it with the Western Conference with LeBron next to you for the Lakers. It's a totally different experience for a lot of these guys who haven't had much playoff time, if they had any at all. So they got a real role. Rui Hachimura, a real role in a playoff scenario situation with the Lakers. People are going to know him. People going to know him. And so this is a big deal for all of our guys, man. Vando, he made a name for himself last year with Minnesota. I think this is an opportunity for him to have a very big series. He's basically going to be our Brandon Clark, more or less. And, he struggled a little bit, but I think his struggles are based on how we've used him, not necessarily what he's capable of. I think if he's utilized properly, he can go crazy. 21 rebounds. He can get points too. We know he's going up as high as 30 points, so he just has to be in situations where he can score the ball and be comfortable doing so. But some of the stuff that we're doing is just exposing his weaknesses and stuff. So we just got to figure out how to let him freelance a little bit more offensively as he does defensively, and just let the game come to him, because he's going to get 15, 20 points off of putbacks and offensive rebounds. So we don't have to run nothing for him. He's like Dennis Rodman. It's exactly who he is. We just got to let him develop. So, think Detroit Dennis Rodman. If anybody know of Detroit Dennis Rodman, that's exactly kind of where Vando is right now. It's early. It's right before we started being able to showcase what it is he really can do. So hopefully we can keep him healthy, and from there, you're going to see him do some magnificent stuff in these playoffs defensively. He's going to be stealing the ball from great players in key moments. That's what I expect from Vando. Key offensive rebounds and putbacks, that kind of thing. Key assists, too. He's a much better passer now that I'm starting to find out what he's capable of. I think we can sneakily, I guess is the way you put it, put him in positions to run plays for others, get plays to AD. And so I'm excited about Vanderbilt's future with the Lakers. I haven't lost my faith just because I'm concerned about running plays for him and it being a problem with him catching the ball. That doesn't change nothing, because I know what he's good at, and you can't buy that, teach that, or none of that. You just need to keep that on your team and value it to the highest degree. That's the type of piece he is. So like I said, Dennis Rodman. So yeah, you don't let him go. You keep him. And you play him, but you don't have to start him. That's what I want to say. You don't have to. There's development to go. It's Detroit Dennis Rodman. We ain't even got to San Antonio yet. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you gotta let him get to that point, and you don't want to throw him in situations or mischaracterize him and think he's gonna be something he's not. Because he's not an offensive weapon. He's capable of getting points, not an offensive weapon. So that's what I want to say. We just gotta let him go through his process and use him as accordingly. You can still give him 30 minutes coming off the bench. He doesn't have to be in the starting lineup. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you may want him in the starting lineup, depending on the matchup. But make it make sense for the matchup, not necessarily because he's of cachet to such degree that you love him that much so you want to start him. That's not how he's properly used. The same thing I said about Beasley. $16 million for Beasley, I can argue, is not good. But for what it is he is capable of at his best, he's a heck of a weapon, which is why he's at a premium. But what you don't do is shove him to the front of the line and ask him to take all your shots and all your points just because he's at a premium. That premium is not because he's able to do that. It's because he's able to shoot a bunch of shots and send the game out into the orbit with his skill set in a short amount of time. You don't have to have him out there for 40 minutes, and he certainly doesn't need to be guarding the best player just because he's a weapon that is valuable in the league. So it's like, these are the type of things you just got to, these organizations have to understand these things. They got to believe and absorb these truths, and then allow these coaches to use these players according to how they're supposed to be used. Just because he's making $16 million does not mean he needs to play any more than 15 minutes. Because he can do the damage he needs to do in 15 minutes, and it's going to be $16 million of what it is you need. That's the exact way I wanted to say that. So please take that and run with it, NBA. Run with that truth. Anyway, so I guess that's about what I want to say in regards to that view. Also, Anthony Davis, that's where I want to go. BDL44, do not talk enough about Anthony Davis and the double teams that he takes on and what I think needs to happen with those double teams. It's just one of those basketball things that I need to bring up that I haven't. He gets double teamed a lot. Every 3 games, he's getting crushed 3 and 4 players at a time. They're crowding him out. And the problem is, he's one of those guys, which is rare for what I've seen, who doesn't pass out of those double teams well, despite getting double teamed all the dang time. I don't see that very often. Most of the guys who get double teamed usually are able to get assists off those easily, because for whatever reason, they're just able to. But him, he doesn't make those passes pretty much quick enough or even look to make those passes at all sometimes. He just lets the double team come and crowd him out, and then it's a turnover. So we need to start running drills for AD that get him into situations that has him thinking pass out quicker and where to pass quicker and more accurately out of those things. If that's the biggest weakness I can think of in regards to Anthony Davis, he's not an especially good passer. He's not. Like, consistently, he's really not a good passer. Now he can make passes and he can get assists, and you've seen him do it. But when it's time for him to make certain types of plays, creative plays, if you notice, he turned the ball over. And so he's rather average at it, and in double team situations, he's a bit below average at it. And that's what ends up hurting us a lot with Anthony Davis. And because of it, they're so effective against him to where he can't give us no more than 15, 20 points sometimes. He's doing all he can on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, all of his weaknesses are basically exposed in that way. And so that's what we always say. We want to put him in quicker actions. I hear people say that, and I say it as well. Just get him moving more so that in those situations, you can see him be able to kind of not have to get crowded out. Those double teams ain't coming as quick because they have to deal with the fact that he's already gone. These types of things help us. Getting him slashing at the bucket for his hook shots and all those different things, those sweeping shots that he likes to go early, closer to the rim. These are things that get us the looks that we want. We have him catching the ball on the left side or the right side, rather, in a corner at like 20 feet, and he's moving slow, trying to pivot. And guys coming over, crowding him out. And depending on how the defense is doing it, that defense is coming fast. That double team is coming very fast. So we got to get him at a level passing out of those double teams that at least will get us the type of production that allow us to finish these plays. Because right now, way too many dead plays while AD is on the floor. And it's just because we're not allowing him to hide that weakness. So that is the thought there, man. We got to do better with him in them double teams. So, that's what I've been thinking about, man. Definitely some stuff I've been thinking about a lot that just had to be brought up. And now we continue to wait. And, of course, homework will be done on the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm going to talk about this team ad nauseum. I'm probably not even done talking about this team this day. So be prepared for BDF 44. It's playoff time. And I'm about winning championships. And I think this roster is good enough to have a puncher's chance against the best teams in the Eastern Conference. That's what I'm telling to you. I think we can have a puncher's chance against Boston and a puncher's chance against Giannis. I think that. So as far as everybody else in the West, I don't think anybody else West is better than them. That's essentially what I'm saying to you. So that's what I got to say. That is what I got to say. Very exciting times to be an LA Laker fan. And hopefully the path that we're on is the best one for us. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.